10 new rules just reshape the landscape for gun owners across America, not suggestions, rules, legal requirements that have changed in the last 2 weeks of January based on court rulings, new legislation, and enforcement actions by federal agencies. If you ignore these rules, you can face criminal prosecution, felony convictions, loss of gun rights, and imprisonment. Let's walk through each one because your freedom depends on understanding what changed. Rule number 10 is the Baird vs. Bonta Open Carry Framework. California's ban on open carry in urban counties was struck down on January 2nd as unconstitutional. But here's the critical detail gun owners miss. The court did not say open carry is an unrestricted right. The court said the government cannot ban open carry entirely based on public safety alone. They need historical precedent. So in California, you can now apply for permits to carry openly if you live in a county with more than 200,000 people. But you still need a permit. You still can't carry in sensitive places. You still can't carry into banks or government buildings. The rule is that open carry is no longer prohibited in urban counties, but it's still regulated. Most gun owners think they can just start openly carrying anywhere. That's not how it works. Rule number 9 is understanding Hawaiian concealed carry restrictions before they potentially change. January 20th, the Supreme Court hears arguments in Woolford versus Lopez. If you live in Hawaii, you probably can't carry on private property open to the public right now. That will likely change by June. But until then, if you have a concealed carry permit in Hawaii, you can carry on public streets and sidewalks. But you can't carry into stores, restaurants, gas stations, or parking lots unless the owner explicitly authorizes it. That rule is about to be challenged at the Supreme Court, so by June, this might change entirely. But today, it's the law. Rule number 8 is AB 1263, accessory compliance in California. If you live in California and you own pistol grips, collapsible stocks, flash hiders, or other regulated accessories purchased before January 1st, you're technically legal. Those items purchased before the law took effect are grandfathered. But if you purchased them after January 1st, you needed background checks and age verification. And if you sell or transfer any of these items now, you're required to do so through licensed dealers. You can't sell them private party. That's the new rule. Violating it means criminal penalties. Rule number 7 is federal ghost gun registration requirements. The ATF's frame and receiver rule treats 80% lowers and partially completed receivers as firearms. That means they require serialization. That means if you have an 80% lower, you need to report it to the ATF. You need to get a serial number. You need to register it. If you have an unregistered lower that's partially finished, you're in violation of federal law. The rule is that frames and receivers are now treated like firearms, period. No exceptions. Rule number 6 is understanding state ammunition regulations before purchasing. Some states now require background checks for ammunition purchases. Some require serialization of ammunition in certain calibers. Some prohibit high-capacity ammunition magazine sales. The rule is that you need to know your state's ammunition regulations before you buy. If you travel across state lines with ammunition, you need to verify that what's legal where you bought it is legal where you're traveling. Ammunition violations can result in felony charges in some states. Rule number 5 is disclosure requirements for certain populations. Some states now require individuals applying for business licenses, housing assistance, or certain government benefits to disclose firearm ownership. Some states require individuals involved in certain legal proceedings to disclose firearms. The rule is that you need to understand your state's disclosure laws. Failing to disclose when required can result in criminal charges and perjury accusations. Rule number 4 is understanding the Supreme Court's Bruin framework for all firearm regulations. The Supreme Court said in 2022 that all firearm regulations must be supported by historical precedent from the founding era. That framework is being applied to everything from magazine capacity bans to assault weapon definitions to carry restrictions. The rule is that courts are going to start striking down regulations that can't prove historical analogs. That means some regulations you thought were settled law might become vulnerable. Rule number 3 is California's new 3-gun purchase limit tracking. California now requires background check systems to track when individuals purchase firearms. If you purchase 3 firearms within a 30-day period, that triggers additional scrutiny. It's not technically illegal to purchase 3 guns in 30 days, but it puts you on a list. The rule is understanding that California is now tracking your purchases more aggressively. Rule number 2 is registration deadlines for restricted firearms in Washington state. Washington state requires registration or removal of certain semi-automatic rifles by October 2nd, 2026. That's the rule. If you own a rifle on that state's restricted list and you don't comply, you face criminal penalties ranging from 7 days in jail to 10 years in prison. The rule is simple: comply or face prosecution. Rule number 1 is the most important one. The rule is that the entire legal landscape for gun ownership changed in January 2026 because of court rulings, new legislation, and enforcement actions. What was legal 30 days ago might not be legal today. What you thought was illegal might now be protected. The rule is that ignorance is no longer an excuse. You need to educate yourself on the current laws in your state, in states where you travel, and under federal regulations. The rule is that gun ownership in 2026 requires constant vigilance and updated legal knowledge. These 10 rules exist because the Supreme Court's Bruin decision has created legal chaos across America. Some courts are striking down regulations aggressively, other courts are upholding them, state legislatures are passing new laws to respond, federal agencies are changing enforcement priorities, and gun owners are caught in the middle trying to stay legal. The stakes are enormous. Violating these rules doesn't mean a fine and moving on. Violating these rules means felony charges, 10 years in federal prison potentially, permanent loss of gun rights, and permanent damage to your employment and housing prospects. Know these 10 rules. Know them for your state. Know them for the states where you travel. And know that rule number 1 is the most important. Stay educated because the law is changing constantly.